Hi everyone, welcome to WeTV. My name is Chris and it's wonderful to see you today. And today, of course, is I Can Make. And we know how much you love making things and you know how much I love making things because we've made so many things together, right? And I'm so happy that you have come along for this exciting ride. And I'm happy that you want actually more and more I Can Makes. So, what do we want to make today? Well, you can look. I've got some things here. Might give you an idea. Did you already guess? Oh, really? Well, take a look at this. Pumpkin cookies. Yes, pumpkin cookies. Doesn't that sound great? You know, in America, at Halloween, we usually carve a pumpkin into a jack-o'-lantern. And what I like to do is carve out some of the inside of the pumpkin to use that to cook things. I also like to take the pumpkin seeds and cook those too to eat them later. So, this is a recipe that I would use to make cookies after we've made our jack-o'-lantern. Okay, so let's talk about what we need to make our cookies. Well, we need pumpkin. Of course, it's pumpkin cookies. We really are going to use pumpkin, not just make them look like pumpkins. We're going to use some flour because we're making cookies. You know this already. We're going to use some butter, some cinnamon, love cinnamon. We're going to use an egg, and actually, we're only going to use the egg yolk. The yolk of the egg is just the yellow part of the egg. All right, we're also going to use some brown sugar. I really like brown sugar. We're going to use some nutmeg. That's a spice, just like cinnamon. We're going to use some ginger. That's a spice you're probably familiar with. Now, our ginger, we're not going to use chopped pieces of ginger. We're just going to use some ginger powder. Okay, so you may not have ginger powder at home. You might want to get some. But if you have some dried ginger, you can always grind that into powder if you want. We're also going to use some vanilla because I love vanilla. And we're going to use just a little bit of salt. All right? Now, we're also going to frost these cookies. We're going to put frosting on the cookies just like how we put frosting on the cake. You remember that? So how do we do that? Well, we're going to use some cream cheese, we're going to use some butter, some vanilla, some salt, powdered sugar to make it sweet, and just to make it more fun, we're going to use some food coloring. We're going to change the color of our frosting so that it is more beautiful on our cookies. Okay? Now, these cookies we're going to make are going to use a little bit of different tools than we've used in the past. Let's take a look at our tools. Well, first, we're going to use cookie cutters. We're actually going to cut the cookies into different shapes. We're also, of course, going to use an oven. You have to bake the cookies. And a rolling pin. So we're going to put the dough on our cutting board and then we're going to roll it flat and cut the cookies out. Does that sound like fun? It's a lot of fun, trust me. Okay, let's go through our steps. First, we're going to cook our pumpkin. You can also buy pumpkin in a can, but I think it's better to use fresh pumpkin to start with. So we're going to cook the pumpkin first. Then we're going to mix 3/4 of a cup of butter and 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. Brown sugar, if you pour it into a cup, it will be very loose. If you push it down and pack it, that will give you the accurate measurement that we want. And we want to use 1/2 cup of packed brown sugar. We're also going to add 1/2 cup of pumpkin and 1 egg yolk. Remember, just the yellow part of the egg. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1/4 teaspoon of each of our spices. Our 3 spices we're using today are ginger, nutmeg, and cinnamon. And then we're going to add a pinch of salt. Now, when we say a pinch of salt, you're going to take your 2 fingers, pinch them together with some salt, and then just do that. That's all the salt you need. Not very much at all. You could even skip the salt if you don't want salt. Now we're going to add 2.5 cups of flour to all of that and mix it all together. And then we want to chill the dough for 30 minutes. We're actually going to put the dough in the refrigerator for 30 minutes so that it gets a little bit harder. It will be easier to roll out. Okay? We're going to heat our oven to 190 degrees centigrade. Then we're ready to roll and cut our cookies. And then we're going to bake them for 10 to 12 minutes each. Now you're going to use either a baking sheet or some aluminum foil in your oven. You can't just put the cookies in the oven. But we'll only have to bake them for 10 or 12 minutes. Watch them when they start to get brown. That's probably when they're done. Okay? We're going to frost the cookies after they cool. And we're also going to put our frosting in the refrigerator so that it will get more hard as well. And then once your cookies are frosted, you either want to serve them soon or you want to put them back in the refrigerator because the frosting will melt if you leave it outside. Okay? Good. Let's go through our steps for the frosting. All right, first thing we're going to do is mix together 30 grams of butter and 1 package of cream cheese, just like we did last time with the cake. Then we're going to sift in 300 grams of powdered sugar and a pinch of salt. And then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and mix. Now, for an extra special flavor, I got a little bit of lemon juice. I'm going to add just a little lemon juice to my frosting to give it a little bit of a lemon flavor. You don't have to do that. It's up to you. You could also add chocolate or whatever you want, but I wanted a little lemon. Okay, the next thing is, let's cook. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's go. Okay, everyone, let's get started. I've already boiled my pumpkin. It's nice and soft, and it's ready to go. I've got my brown sugar measured and ready to go in my bowl. I'm going to add the butter to the brown sugar, and then I'm going to add my pumpkin in, just like it says here. We're going to mix in 3/4 cup of softened butter. So I left the butter out for a while. It is nice and soft. I'm just going to get a big chunk of butter. It's a lot of butter, really. And I want to mix this in with the brown sugar as much as possible. They call this creaming the sugar. Okay, the butter and the sugar are mixed up nice and well. That's good. And now we're going to add in our pumpkin. I've got a little bit more pumpkin than I need, but that's okay. So you only need 1/2 cup of pumpkin. And I want to go ahead and add in my spices too. Now it says we only need 1/4 teaspoon. So if this is a teaspoon, which this is actually a little small for a teaspoon, we only need 1/4 of that. So we just need a little bit of spice. So first I'm adding nutmeg. And I like nutmeg, but I'll add a little bit more. Now we're going to add the ginger. So these cookies will be a little spicy and a little sweet. And now I'm going to add the cinnamon. And I'm always put in more cinnamon than the recipe calls for, just because I really, really enjoy cinnamon. Okay, I'm going to put this off to the side. And of course we need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Let's go ahead and mix this together. Okay, and we're ready for our egg yolk. Don't want to miss that egg yolk. Now, with our egg, we only want the yolk, so I'm going to try and separate this. What I'm going to do here is use this spoon and hold the egg yolk and try to pour out the white. And I just want to take your time, be gentle, because if you break the egg yolk, you'll never really get it separated. And part of the white of the egg always wants to stick to the yolk. So just be patient. There's also a special tool you can buy that is just for separating egg yolks. All right, that should be okay. And you'll probably end up with a little bit of white. That's okay. And let's mix that in now. Now we need to add our pinch of salt. So I'm going to get to the salt. Just a pinch. That's all. Okay, and I just mix that back in. And once that's done, I can add this to my flour. Now my flour is just waiting. And I didn't put all the flour in here. This is most of the flour. It's always good to have some extra. Let's fold this in. You want to be careful when you add more flour, because if you add too much, then you have to go back, add more pumpkin, add more sugar. So we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it cool for 30 minutes, and we're going to make the frosting while it's cooling, okay? Great, let's go do that. We're ready to get started on our frosting since our dough is now in the refrigerator. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my cream cheese and put this in my bowl. And now I'm going to add butter to that cream cheese. And I'm going to mix them together. Now comes the fun part. We add our sugar. And this box is 300 grams of sugar. That's exactly what we need. And you do normally want to sift the sugar like I said last time, but I don't mind. I'm going to crush all these clumps anyway. Woo, that is a lot of sugar. All right, now we want to be careful with all this sugar because it could go everywhere. Gently stir it in. Look at that. All the sugar has been folded in nicely. A good thick frosting. Now I'm going to add a little bit of lemon juice. A little lemon juice goes a long way. Let's add some vanilla. We're supposed to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. It's just a little. And of course we mix that in. You might notice that my frosting is very soft now. It wasn't so soft before. But that's because the more you mix it, the warmer it gets. The warmer it gets, the softer it gets. That's why I say you should put it in the refrigerator before you use it so that it can get a little more firm again. Now we wanted colorful frosting, so I'm going to separate this out and I'm going to add some color to these other ones. And then I will have 3 colors. I will have this yellow kind of white color. I've got some orange and I've got some black. Now with food coloring, you don't need to add too much. And it's always better to start small. So let's just add a little and see how that goes. See the color swirling around? I'm going to try to stir it until it's all the same color. Wow, that's pretty orange. Just a few drops of food coloring. We've got this orange. I want it a little darker orange, so I'm going to add just a little bit more coloring. And that should be perfect. Okay, let's make our black frosting. And again, we'll add just a little. Oops, that might have been too much. But that's okay. And yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, I'm ready to put all my frosting in the refrigerator and check on my dough to see how it's doing. And then we're ready to roll and cut cookies. Let's get going on that. All right, my dough is nice and chilled. We're ready to roll it out and try to make some cookies. So I've got some flour, and the first thing I'm going to do is I want to put flour around my little board here because I don't want the dough to stick to the board. So that's a lot of flour, I know. The other thing I want to do is I want to put flour on the rolling pin because I don't want the dough to stick to the rolling pin. I'm also going to put flour on my hands. Why? Because I don't want the dough to stick to my hands. That's why. All right. And I'm just going to take a handful of dough. Maybe I should have floured the bowl because now the dough is stuck to the bowl. And I'm just going to put it down here and I'm going to roll it. All right. And if it starts to get sticky, I'm going to put more flour on my rolling pin. I can even put some more flour on the top of the dough. You know, since there's a good amount of flour on the bottom, I'm just going to roll this over and roll it out. Now we don't need to make it too thin. We just want to roll it out so that it's easy to cut. Okay, so it's mostly flat. And now the fun part. We're going to cut these with these little cookie cutters I've got. This one's a cat. And of course, I like to try to get a good spot because I don't want to waste anything. So when you cut them, push them down, wiggle them a little. And let me get under here. Pull that out. I'm going to put this on my plate first, and that way it will be easy to put in my oven. And I've got several shapes. This one's a pumpkin. Okay. Now, I got to a point here, and this is what's going to happen anytime you do something like this, where there's not really enough dough to cut. Well, that's okay. We just fold it back together. Then we roll it again, and then we cut it again. Well, everyone, I've baked my cookies. I've got some of them here. I've got a lot more in the back. And I just wanted to go through the frosting with you. I've got my 3 different colors, my white, my orange, and my black frosting. That came out very well. And so we're going to frost these, and I just want to get a little bit of frosting. And how you do your frosting is really up to you. I just want to gently apply the frosting to the cookie. If you want it to look very good, you can put it in a plastic bag, put the frosting in the plastic bag, and then you cut the end of the plastic bag. That way you can just squeeze the plastic bag and the frosting will come out just like toothpaste, and you can easily frost your cookies that way. A lot of people like to do that. I've got a ghost here. Frost my ghost. Love it. Look at these colorful cookies. They're so wonderful. I hope that your cookies come out as well, and I hope that they taste just as yummy as these cookies. Okay. Well, I've still got a few more cookies to frost, and I've got cookies to eat, and I gotta go. I'll see you next time right here on I Can Make on WeTV. Goodbye, everyone.